My own background is I'm a sports scientist. I did my degree in sports science, but after doing the degree in sports science, I found myself less than interested in the area. And the reason was that my degree was very focused on elite sports. So I went on to study health promotion, which I much prefer because there's a focus on getting populations physically active. And that's an area that interests me. I'm also interested in working with older people because I've had first-hand experience, as I'm sure you all have, of the ageing process. In my degree, on my first year of my degree, I remember being taught that you needed to do a cool down. I was 17 and I remember thinking, what are they talking about? And by 22 I realised why you needed to do a cool down after your exercise. So that was my first encounter with the ageing process. And I really believe that as you get older, and the older you get, the more important physical activity gets. That's why I'm particularly interested in working in physical activity for older adults. So today I work on the National Programme for Sport and Physical Activity, which is called Go for Life in Ireland. It's been running for about 15 years, and about 3 years ago we piloted a programme that aims to get at people who aren't members of groups, who may be in disadvantaged areas, who may be in rural areas. We started to look, because these are the really difficult to reach people, we started to look and see what tools have we that we could use to access these more difficult to reach people. So, just very quickly, what we do is, we came up with the idea of Go for Life Fitline, did a big hit review, and we came up with the idea of Go for Life Fitline. So what we do is, the first thing there is contact. So what we are is a service, a telephone service that encourages people to be physically active. So let's say you're a person, I should say, we deal with people aged 55 and over. So let's say you're a person who goes to your doctor or you see a notice somewhere in your local community or in the local paper for Go for Life Fitline. What you do is you ring us and you register with us and then we start calling you. So we're not cold calling people and harassing them into exercising. People sign up for our service. So what we do then is we work using motivational interviewing and we call people every 2 weeks to encourage them to set goals to be physically active. So typically our first call is quite long. We talk to people about their exercise history, what they've done in the past. We do standard, if any of you are familiar with motivation interviewing, we do decisional balances, so we get people to work through reasons they want to be physically active, but reasons they don't want to. So, I'd really like to be physically active, but I always do really badly at it. I always do great for 3 weeks and then I'm terrible again. So we work through stuff like that with people. We tell them what they should be aiming for, and we go by the National Physical Activity Guidelines, 30 minutes, moderate intensity physical activity on most days of the week. So we tell them that's what they should be aiming for, and then we say to them, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks. What can you do in the next 2 weeks that will make you get closer to that goal? So for some people that will be, well, I used to be a cyclist. I used to love my bike. And when you do the exercise history, people love to reminisce over, oh, sure, when I was a child, I cycled every day to school and I ran around the football pitch. So for some people, it would be that have had relatively recent high levels of physical activity. They'll say, oh, I'll get my bike out by the next time you ring me, I'll have my bike out. For other people, it will be a much, much lower goal. So it will be, I'll think about finding out what swimming pools are in my area. So we can work with people on an individual basis at wherever they stand. So the second thing we do is capacity, and this is the telephone-based support of physical activity isn't a new idea, and there's loads of evidence to support it. But what's new about what we've done is we train volunteer over 55-year-olds to do the phone calls. So they're our mentors. So it's peer-led, so it's not expert-led, it's not health professional-led. So every 2 weeks the phone calls are made by ordinary over 55-year-olds. Some of our mentors are 50, some are 55, one of our best ones is 76. So so what we do is we build capacity within the community to promote physical activity. So the last thing that we do then is linking. I'm sure it's the same where you're from, that there's loads of things going on, but it's the usual suspects who turn up for them all the time. So it's the same people. So what we try to do is we take isolated or rural or people who don't typically join groups, and we link them into the things that are ongoing. So how we do this is, I just have a visual representation of what Fitline is. So Fitline is effectively like a funnel. So you'll see the blue lines there is the funnel. And what we have is our Fitline mentors, and they're making the calls. But then we have all of our partners that we work with through our other programme. We have all the local sports partnerships, so they promote sport in all of the counties of Ireland. And we have the health promotion departments of the HSE who do the same thing. They promote physical activity in the local environment. We have very good structures for older people's groups in Ireland. And we have family resource centres. So they're centres that work exclusively in disadvantaged areas. And they're all doing things. So we find out, we ring them regularly and we say, what are you doing that would be of use to over 55s? And then we tell our mentors, this is what's going on in County Louth, this is what's going on in County Meath, this is what's going on in County Dublin. So the idea is that these people who don't regularly access those services are being told every fortnight, if they're interested, we don't ram it down their throats, but if they're interested in the subject, they're being told what's going on. So some of the reasons why we bother doing this, I've said it already, we're interested in getting people. We have a very successful programme that accesses people who are members of groups. We do regular research and we know that people who are members of groups are more likely to be physically active. So the people who really need our services are the ones who aren't members of groups. So we need to get at those people. Second reason is because we believe in physical activity, the font of youth, and that story I told you at the start about physical activity being so important. The older you get, the more important it gets. And so that's why we go to the trouble. And the third thing is so that people can garner social benefits as well. I'll just go back to this second half of this image. You can see we have 3 people there who are using the service, so those 3 stick figures there. And each of those represents a different scenario. So you can see the first person starts to take fit line calls, and they would get the call, and then they get more physically active. And then they go on to join community groups. So they go on to join an Irish dancing class, or a Tai Chi class, or they go on to join a knitting group, or it's not always physical activity. The second person is a non-joiner and doesn't want to join, and so they don't, and that's fine. And then the third person, we have access to all of the physical activity opportunities that are going on in Ireland through our other programmes, so some of them go on to join Go for Life. So we're there for pushing the physical benefits of physical activity, but also the social benefits as well. So how we do it, we do phone calls. So what you get is you get regular phone calls, so every 2 weeks. The peer mentors, that was a new thing. We took an evidence-based program from America and we tried out using volunteer mentors. And that's what's different. And to the best of my knowledge, there's no other program doing that over the phone. So that was kind of our innovation that we tried, and that's how we do it. And the last one is partnership. We have really, really strong partnerships through the health promotion partners in the HSE and the local sports partnerships from our other programme. So we continue to work with our partners to promote the programme. So just to give you some information on where all this comes from, Go for Life is the programme I work for, the National Programme for Sport and Physical Activity for Older People. And it's been running, as I say, it's an Aging Opportunity is the organisation that came up with the idea for Go for Life, and it's funded by the Irish Sports Council. And it's a very successful programme. We've over 10 evaluations, it's very successful if you're a member of the group. But we wanted to look at what we can do for people who weren't members of groups. So we did a literature review, and we found that one of the strongest evidence bases was for telephone-based support for older adults. So we found loads of literature, but we found 2 really, really useful things. One was a meta-analysis of 26 years of research that was done by a woman by the name of Eakin in California. And it talked about what elements of a programme were important and what you needed to put in place to have a successful programme. And the second thing was Stanford University had taken all of their research, many researchers out there who are interested in finding out how to make your research useful, and they sold it as an off-the-shelf product that we bought it for $300 and we used that as the basis for our programme. So what we did is then we had a model of best practice from America, and we said, right, well, we need to adapt this. The World Health Organization suggests that you take something that's evidence-based and you adapt it to the local setting. So we had Aging Opportunity is an empowerment organisation. So that's where the idea for getting volunteers to get older adults. Everything Aging Opportunity does is peer-led, and it promotes. It promotes empowerment of older adults. The Irish Sports Council is always pushing for more participation rather than sports. We want to do that. And there are two programs. The Senior Helpline is a volunteer helpline for older adults run by older adults that we used as an example. And the Smokers Quick Line is a behaviour change. What we do is behaviour change, and the Smokers Quick Line is a behaviour change program. So that was the background. So our three key activities are recruitment, support and training. So in terms of recruitment, what we do is we get our best responses from local media, so we don't have a budget for it. We go to rural areas and we work with the local sports partnerships and health promotion partners, and there are projects set up for designated disadvantaged areas, and we work with them, and they help us to recruit people from designated disadvantaged areas. We have ongoing support of the mentors. So you can train mentors. Initially we do 2 days of training, and then we do 3-month follow-up, and then we have about 2 events a year to encourage them and to keep them, because trying to support people to change their behaviour is a long, slow process, and it requires patience, and just to keep them motivated, we stay in touch with them. In the training itself, we recruit people who are interested in physical activity and who are good listeners. Listening is the most important thing with motivational interviewing. And we keep them informed throughout the year of what's going on. Sorry, I have to rush through these. So we did a pilot programme in 2009 in County Louth, which is about 100 km north of Dublin. And what we did is, just to say that we're informed by the stages of change model, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and that's what there in the middle. What we found that, the pilot was with about 25 people, and we found that in terms of behaviour change, people were thinking more about physical activity. And that 100% of the participants, now this was self-report, and I'm perfectly willing to accept the limitations of the type of research we did, but there's, they said that they were more physically active than before they started. We also did a thematic analysis of the notes and found that people moved through the stages of change. So some people were pre-contemplated, they weren't thinking about being, then they went to act, then they went to action, then they moved back to relapse. The way that people moved for our programme was consistent with what is expected in behaviour change for physical activity. So I wanted to tell you 3 of the stories just to give you an idea of what, just to tell you about Stella. Stella is one of the people, because I have an evaluation, if anybody wants to read the evaluation, you're more than welcome, but just at the human side, Stella was one of our participants who for the first about 3 months wanted to take the calls, wanted to stay in the service but wouldn't take our calls, dodging our calls basically. And it's perfectly, people can just tell us they don't want our calls if they don't want them, but we're certainly not there to harass people. She asked us to keep calling. Eventually she started walking with her friend or her cousin or something, and once she got walking, she got more enthusiastic about life in general. She ended up signing up to a computer course, nothing to do with physical activity, and she ended up winning a Silver Surfer Award, so kind of an unlikely outcome for us there. The second thing, just to emphasise how important the empowerment of older adults has been for us, the first call that was made was by a woman, Bridie, who was one of our 76-year-old mentor, and she rang up this woman and said, "Hello, how are you? I believe you're becoming more physically active." And the woman said, "Oh yeah, well I am, but actually I just find it so difficult since I lost my husband." To which Bridie replied, "I understand, I lost my husband 5 years ago and it's very difficult." And so that's an example of the type of empathy that exists between two people who've had similar life experiences, as compared to if, let's say, a very fit person rang up and asked them why they weren't running marathons. And that's been one of the most effective things. And finally, for our partners, we're all the time making sure that there are events being run for over 55s, and when they are, we're recruiting for them. So that's good for them. So in terms of our budget, what's all this cost us? So the pilot programme cost €3,000, and you can see that we spent a lot on venues and calls because this was a very innovative project and we had to buy our way into a local community group basically. So it was only €100 a month. And we got that funding from Go for Life, our main project. In the second year we got funding from the HSE, so we were able to roll out a second programme. So on a shoestring, at the very cheapest that you can run Go for Life Fitline, is €4,000, €2,000 per centre, and that's the things that we're spending our money on. So it has to be free for people to call, and it has to be a national number. Just to say that we get a lot of in kind, so we get, all our volunteers are giving us, we're not paying them. My salary and the salary of my peer, I only work 2 days a week, but my salary is paid for Go for Life. Our partner salaries, so the health promotion partner of the HSC, they're working for us. We recruit through GPs, they're working for us, and the local sports partnerships, family resource centres are all working for us. So all in all, if you took the in-kind, it costs about 15,000 to set up and 11,000 to maintain per annum. So we worked it out though, it works out, if we're working at full capacity, for about €60 per annum, you can give somebody a call every 2 weeks for the whole year. So our future priorities are recruitment. Most difficult thing about this is recruitment, because you're trying to get non-exercisers to sign up for something like this. Obviously we have to go on supporting our mentors, and if I have my way, what I would like to put in place, because we're working off an evidence base, that woman Ethan and her colleagues who did the meta-analysis of what works on the telephone and what doesn't, it's really, really important that people are getting constant feedback. So what I would like to be able to do when we get some money is to be able to put in place a software system, and these software systems we have a proposal written, we just need the money, that tells people what stage of change they were at every time they got a phone call, and tells them in the last 6 months when you moved from being a pre-contemplator to action, you relapsed at this stage, or you were doing 80 minutes exercise in June, but by September you dropped off, because typically that's what people do, that they respond to the seasons. And we continue with workshops and resource updates.
Thank you very much.